Just go. Just do the line.
Do the line? From who?
From
Do the roar. Do the roar.
It does feel very Do the Roar-esque, doesn't it?
Or you could go, you give me the creeps, Morgan. You could do that one if you don't want to say a swear word.
Wow. Oh yeah, that's true. I think is it past? It's past past, so I'm now live on my channel too. So
oh great.
I don't want to ruin the possibility of AdSense on my channel. Although
I have to do one more case opening because we did get sent the money for it.
You have to do one more case opening.
Yeah, no, I've got it ready, so I'll do it quick.
Right. We'll do a quick case opening.
Change stream. Bang. Look at that. That was way faster than last time.
Great work.
Are we ready?
He's practiced. Yeah, it's generally in the middle.
Okay. Let's go.
Gold.
Oh,
actually, W, I'll take
purple's
that.
Good,
That's
right?
really nice.
Purple's
That's
usually
really nice, yeah.
higher than other ranks.
Yeah, it's kind of hot.
Field tested though, but pretty. I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
What is on it?
It's Zeus.
The man of your
Zeus.
dreams.
So this gun is well, this is a taser called the Zeus, and then this is Zeus on the Zeus.
Ah,
I don't have a skin for it, so I don't mind. I'll take that.
do you feel like you're talking to like your dad sometimes when you have to explain things?
Yes.
We're like, oh, what's that, son? What's that on that gun there you got?
All right. Thank you for donating to the maid dresses.
The maid dresses.
Dorcas. I don't know how you outro these. I'm not gonna lie.
They just kind of transitioned because I have to go to my. Well, we can do.
Basically, we go. Everyone go over to not applicable James if you want to.
Also, that would be great. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, go. Like, dude, do it. Like, let's get everyone over to not NA_James. He like jokes off about the Grand Prix. He reacts to it. He says lots of funny
McLaren.
jokes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, go ahead, go over there, and thank you from me and Duck, who now be heading off and like having a nice evening probably with all of the money you sent us.
I was gonna say it's like early in the morning for Duck.
Oh yeah, sorry.
But yes, thank you for showing up today, everyone. Unfortunately, James did not take his shirt off, but whatever.
Yeah.
You could bug
You
him
got the
about it
inside
instead.
out. It's fine.
Yeah, it was close.
We wanted
it
to
was
see the
close.
hairy pepperonis, man. It's okay.
All right, we're done. End the stream, James. End the stream.
I had another game. Well, we can do it another time. Will it still be relevant? We'll have to do it before Canada.
we'll film it on Monday.
Can film on Monday. Thank you for joining me, lads. Appreciate it. Someone needs to go to the Crash Happy channel and stop the streams over there. So
okay,
I will leave you two with that endeavor.
I'll do that now.
There you go.
I'm ending them. End stream. Done.
Beautiful. Oops.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful. Lovely. Right. I'm going to disappear.
Very good.
Goodbye.
Well. All right, enjoy
I'm
stream,
gonna make
James.
breakfast. Bye-bye.
Baby. Hello. How are we all doing? Apologies, little crossover there with the Crash Happy boys. But we're live. We're ready to go. Just grabbing my own stream so I can actually see the race. How are we all feeling? Miami, it was a little bit wet earlier. It's looking okay now, though. Like, generally speaking, it would be interesting to see, like, a bit of a mixture of wet to dry. But I feel like it's dried out pretty much fully at this point. I don't think we're going to see any kind of wet running at all, if I'm honest. I don't think we're going to see that much wet running at all. Guess what? You're back. Miami Grand Prix is underway. Not quite yet. We've got 24 minutes until the start of the Grand Prix itself. I'm just quickly getting my stream up. Can everybody see everything? I haven't messed up the stream in the transitional period between us and Crash Happy, I hope. There we go. That'll do. We'll see. Just grabbing some of the multi-viewer bits and pieces too. Miami gets random showers for like 20 minutes throughout the day. That's true as well, to be fair. So we do need to be a little bit careful about saying the rain won't come. It's been drying as we've kind of been getting prepared for the stream. Haven't seen any more rain clouds in the last hour or so in the sort of time that I've been glancing over at the screen and sort of seeing. What if the Grand Prix was held 1 hour before? Well, that's the risk, right? They had the rain warning. They decided to bring it forward 3 hours. So they were like, maybe this is the best idea rather than stick into the 4 o'clock, or for us, what would have been 9 o'clock starting time. Forecast says 30% storms. Ooh, okay. At the moment, if I'm looking at the track map data that I've got, yeah, it does say 30%, 30% too. I mean, it would be, would we prefer wet to dry or dry to wet is the thing. I feel like dry to wet would be slightly more interesting. Oh, sorry, wet to dry would be slightly more interesting. But then I suppose a little shower midway through, you get that gamble of when do you go onto the intermediate tires, who goes onto the intermediate tires first. Who do I think is the World Drivers' Champion this season? That is an almost impossible prediction. What time does it actually start? We're about 20 minutes out from the start of the Grand Prix itself. In terms of your guys' predictions, we can talk about that and what you guys were predicting coming into this weekend. This could all still certainly come true. There was a lot of positivity around Mercedes still, of course. Kimi Antonelli, even though he's won the last 2 Grand Prix, you guys went for George Russell being the faster of the 2 Mercedes cars. That's a little bit of a question mark at the moment, I would say, because we don't really know, first of all, how the start is going to go. Kimi Antonelli has not done very well at the start of the sprint yesterday, and the team even said that wasn't Kimi Antonelli's fault. So at the end of the day, we are probably looking at Kimi Antonelli likely losing places again, even though he's starting at the front of the pack. James, please read Ferrari have the fastest starts. What if it becomes 1-2? And then the only problem for Ferrari is it's not a very long run down to turn 1. And the McLaren starts haven't been horrendous. Like, they've been nowhere near as bad as some of the starts that we've seen, well, from our front 2, really. Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli are the 2 drivers that have probably had the worst starts, considering. You guys have got Oscar Piastri in at 3rd place. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. Maybe swap that out for Lando Norris now. Piastri just seems a little bit uncomfortable with the car in the low grip conditions, and it's actually something that George Russell was talking about yesterday. He was sort of talking about when they are on those lower grip tracks, he just doesn't quite have the same confidence in the car because he likes the car to be smooth and go through the corners in a kind of smooth fashion. Whereas when you are fighting the car through the corners like you do have to sometimes here in Miami, you get a little bit out of shape. He just doesn't like that kind of driving. Are my lights on? Yes. What do I think about Red Bull's rear wing? I think it's really cool. I think we're finally seeing, I don't like the Macarena name, but then I also just always call it the upside down rear wing. So I feel like it's an interesting development for the season. We'll kind of have to wait and see, first of all, if it is something they stick with for the rest of the year. Like, they're trying it out here in Miami. Is it going to be something that they continue to try out in different tracks? And then also beyond that, is it going to be something that actually we see grow as the season progresses and we get different styles of that rear wing on other cars as well? Like, we've obviously got it on the Ferrari for this weekend too, that kind of rotating rear wing. Will other teams start to develop into that as well? And will we start to see McLaren or Mercedes bring their own versions of that, like, rotating rear wing? Like, how much does it actually affect the cars running? Thank you for the new subs. Yes, Sally, thank you indeed. Oh, actually, quite a few new subs coming in there. Appreciate it. Trust Aston Martin will definitely be a double podium. I'm not so sure. We can have a little look at the grid going into today. So this was how it stacked out after qualifying yesterday. In case you missed the news, Isaac Hadjar has picked up a penalty. That's why he's all the way at the bottom of the pack there. If I just... even lower than that. He is all the way at the bottom of the pack there. Isaac Hadjar, given a penalty. His car was 2 millimeters too wide. And they are the margins that we run at in Formula One. Your car's too wide, your car's too wide. Disqualified from qualifying. He starts from the back of the grid. Working our way up, we then got Gabriel Bortoleto. Obviously, his car was on fire yesterday. So hopefully another Audi will not catch fire once again. We did have Hulkenberg on fire before the sprint race and Bortoleto on fire during qualifying. Hopefully they'll kind of make it. We've got quite a few laps ahead of us, 57 laps of the Miami Grand Prix circuit. So hopefully Gabriel Bortoleto will get there. We then got Perez and Bottas, Alonso and Stroll, kind of the pack of 4 that we're expecting to be down there, let's be honest. Unfortunately, when it comes to this season so far, not so much for Cadillac. I thought they were always going to be down there in terms of the pace they were going to have. And actually, they're doing pretty well, considering they are brand new to the Formula One grid. But yeah, we were all expecting more from Aston Martin. I think the thing with Aston Martin is that there are no upgrades on that car. Like, how on earth, after 4 weeks of a break, did they manage to bring no upgrades for either of their 2 cars? Either of their 2 cars, just bring a little bit of an upgrade. Bring something to bring a little bit of emotion out of us. Absolutely nothing at all on the Aston Martin cars. Can I read this? Hope you're having a nice day. I think Norris will do well. I agree. I also think Mercedes will struggle. I'm not so sure. Mercedes have been so on and off it this weekend. Like, Mercedes really didn't look at it during the sprint. But then in qualifying, Kimi came out of nowhere and put in a stunning pole position lap. Like, to be 3.5 tenths quicker than the other cars. I know it was like all of the other cars had then the ability to improve, but to be 3.5 tenths quicker after that first round of flying laps, absolutely insane from Kimi Antonelli. Ridiculous from him. And like, it's just so impressive that Kimi Antonelli was able to put in that kind of lap, pick up his 3rd pole position in a row, which is insane, and then just continue on from there. Do you think that the changes in Miami made F1 better? I think the changes certainly made qualifying better. We certainly saw a lot more drivers making mistakes. We saw a lot more drivers pushing to the real limit of their cars. And that's what we want to see in qualifying, right? We do want to see the cars going into corners at high speeds. We saw lockups into turn 1. We saw lockups into turn 17. Like, things that we hadn't really seen that much of in the first 3 qualifying sessions of the season. 4 if you include the China sprint qualifying. But we saw some big moments. And I think that's what Formula One has gotten used to with qualifying. Drivers being right on the edge. And those moments of panic where you're like, ooh, okay, they pushed it just over the limit there. But now we're kind of back into that being the case again, where we did see a few drivers, well, lots of drivers go very deep into a few of the corners. Even Charles Leclerc going deep in turn 11 and making a mistake. So we've got those drivers now making mistakes once again and kind of pushing the cars to the limit. But continuing on, Arvid Lindblad starts in 16th place. Alex Albon, 15th place. Esteban Ocon, 14th place. I think they're the 3 that I'm looking at as unlikely to really make moves forwards. I kind of trust Sainz and Behrman and Lawson to maybe give Hulkenberg a little bit of a battle more so. Like, Ocon's just looked a little bit off of it so far this season. I know he finished ahead of Behrman in the sprint race yesterday, but I still just don't trust Ocon to outperform Ollie Behrman. Same with Alex Albon. I think Carlos Sainz will just get the better out of the Williams car this weekend, so I can't really see Albon pushing that far forwards. Be interesting to see what Lindblad can do from there. Like, if the Racing Bull is quick enough to be 11th fastest, like Lawson has put it, and sort of sneak in towards the top 10. Obviously, I know that Hulkenberg has only inherited 10th place because Hadjar dropped down, but Lawson wasn't too far off of it, and that midfield pack will be interesting to watch, sort of from Lawson down to Lindblad, and then we'll see which of those drivers can give Hulkenberg a little bit of a battle, maybe even Gasly and Colapinto a little bit of a battle, although the Alpine does just seem to be that little bit further ahead. But getting into the point scoring places, obviously everyone from Hadjar, so Hadjar qualified in P9 yesterday, but with Hadjar dropping down to the back of the grid, everyone shuffles up a position. So Hulkenberg now starts inside of the point scoring places. We've then also got Gasly and Colapinto now side by side, or next to one another at least, in the rankings, with Colapinto outperforming Gasly again. It's 2 qualifying sessions in a row. I know it's a sprint qualifying and a full qualifying on the same track, but Colapinto and Gasly still still outperforming Gasly in that qualifying session that we had. So that's very impressive from him. Be interesting to see what that battle looks like. I'm sort of looking Colapinto, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Lawson, maybe a little bit of Behrman, although the Haas car didn't look incredible when it came to race pace. Or sprint pace, I should say, yesterday in the sprint. So I'm looking at that bracket there. Colapinto, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Lawson. That battle will be quite interesting to see what happens. We've got Piastri then just above that, kind of moving into the top 4 teams, minus Isaac Hadjar. Oscar Piastri, the slowest of them. Really didn't look comfortable in the car. I don't know, it all changed, didn't it? Usually sprint qualifying and full qualifying are fairly similar. But actually, it did change quite a lot for a few of the cars. And I think the rebalancing, like we saw the fact that the new regulations, the changes that have come into place and how they've adapted to them, like how have the cars actually had to adapt to those changes and how they're progressing with the changes to the cars as the weekend goes on as well, make this very different. And actually make the cars look completely different from one session to the next. So it wouldn't surprise me if suddenly out of nowhere, maybe Piastri does have some race pace, or Hamilton has some race pace, where they've kind of looked the slower of the top teams so far. Russell's an interesting one. He said he's not really comfortable on this kind of track, which is an interesting sort of, I was going to use the word excuse, but, maybe not excuse. Maybe that's the wrong word to use from George Russell, but certainly an interesting thing to say, particularly when your teammate is starting on pole position and your teammate is a lot less experienced than you are. George Russell's starting to make, again, I feel like the word excuse is like a little bit too harsh, but making excuses in a way, George Russell. Then we've got Lando Norris in 4th place. Obviously, interesting to see where Lando will kind of shake out in all of this. Did win the sprint race, did Lando Norris. So we've got to remember, has already got a win this weekend, Lando Norris. P4, but you're looking at the cars ahead of him. Antonelli, Verstappen, they've had some pretty poor starts so far this season. Could he use that to his advantage? Could he maybe be in 1st or even 2nd place by the time he gets to turn 1? It's a short run down to turn 1 is the problem. So even if Antonelli and Max don't get the best of starts ever, being able to get past both of them, there's quite a wall there. It's not the widest of tracks to be able to find a way past 2 cars in front of you, especially if Leclerc and Norris are both going for overtakes. That top 4 could be really interesting. Like at the start, I could see there being a world where someone in this top 4 or 5 wipes themselves out or wipes out a competitor as well, wipes themselves and somebody else out. And then we start to get a little bit of an interesting one where actually, if we then get 2 of those cars removed, you're looking at Gasly, Colapinto inheriting 6th place possibly, and the points that would be available to the midfield teams. Colapinto, take 2 of the cars from the top out. Let's say Verstappen and Leclerc, because I randomly picked those 2. Take those 2 out. Colapinto goes up to 6th. Gasly goes up to 7th. Hulkenberg's in the points. Lawson, Behrman then inherit some points positions. And then that fight for the final point scoring positions becomes a fight for consistent points. And it's like, ooh, that could get very, very tasty indeed in the midfield, because they know it's a big opportunity for them to pick up points where normally, only 2 or 3 of those cars pick up points. But now this weekend, it could be 5 of those teams pick up points, 6 of those teams pick up points. And those points available to them, picking up 8 points for the team or 6 points for the team. Very, very big. Welcome to Gboard Clipboard. What does that even mean? Let's just ban whatever that is. There we go. $12 a.m. for me, so I'm crying. I want to sleep, but I also want to watch. Imagine that. It could have been 3 a.m. Like, it's been moved forward a little bit. Gotta take that a touch. My shirt is still inside out. Yeah, I know. It's from the Crash Happy stream. I'll sort it out in a second. Member? Thank you for becoming a member. If you are. 6:52. It is 5:53 for me. So we are 7 minutes off the start of the Grand Prix. Weather still looking fine. Is looking fairly dry, generally speaking, and yeah, I looking at the track, it doesn't look wet at all anymore. I know that the F2 race was an absolute banger because they had a lot of running under the safety car, but the laps that they didn't have running under the safety car were really, really worth watching. Like, if you haven't watched the Formula 2 race yet, highly recommend. Duck said it was an absolute banger of a Formula 2 race. So I think we could see an absolute banger of a Formula 1 race, as long as we also then get some weather changes. I'm a little bit worried because obviously... Oh, there we go. I'm a little bit worried that we might just see a full dry race. And unfortunately, in the sprint, it was not the most exciting sprint in the world. So maybe, a little bit of mixed conditions would be nice. You hated the F2 race. Why? What was wrong with it? What made you hate it? I thought it was pretty good, no? Unless you're sort of a supporter of a particular driver, and maybe it wasn't their weekend. Generally speaking, though. As a spectacle, I feel like it was a good race. Top 3 predictions. Oh, it's so close. It's so close to predict, though. The problem is Antonelli or Verstappen. I just don't trust either of them to get the start right because they haven't done so far this season. So I just don't trust either of them to be absolutely on it. And then we kind of get... Okay. Podium prediction. I'm gonna be super biased. No, I'm not. Top 3 prediction. Leclerc will win the race. Leclerc will win the race. Antonelli will be second. Norris will be third. I don't know what happens to Verstappen there, though. I'm worried. And George Russell's there too. I think this is one of the races where it's like hardest to predict. Particularly because we don't know how the start's going to go. We don't know how the weather's going to go. We don't know really what the race pace of these cars properly looks like. We don't know if there's going to be overtaking opportunities or not. Because in the sprint race, it was a little bit flip-floppy. And I think a lot of the cars just kind of settled in because they were like, they don't want to go for a move and ruin their whole weekend. You could go for a move in the sprint race is worth a point, which to the drivers right at the top end of the grid is not always worth it. And the teams will certainly be telling some of the drivers to just sort of hold position, take the 5 points rather than going for 6 points, that kind of thing. But I don't know. We'll have to we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Oh. I've messed up my own stream. It's not a good shout. I've just closed my own live stream. Let's just get that back up again. We will also move over to the full race board for you. We are a couple of minutes away. I'm going to quickly change my top to be in the right way round again. Have a question. Can Max take a podium? Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Like, all of a sudden, the Red Bull really does, well, in the hands of Max Verstappen, the Red Bull really does look like he's come to life once again. We actually had a fairly positive Max Verstappen after the qualifying that we had yesterday. Wasn't overly positive at the beginning of the weekend, but a semi-positive Max Verstappen at the beginning... Oh, sorry, at the end of qualifying yesterday. And starting on the front row of the grid. So, Sainz starting from the pit lane. Ooh, I haven't actually checked. Oh yeah, Sainz's car does seem to be locked for some reason on the track map. Pass. Let me see if I can see Carlos Sainz. They changed the camera angle just so I was trying to have a look. Although actually they are much further down on the grid. So I think that track map might not be absolutely spot on. Let me try and reset it. Give me a second. I'll reset it. We'll take a couple of seconds, but obviously we are not starting anyway yet. We're a couple of minutes away from the start of the Grand Prix. Formation lap is about to get underway. You can see the lights at the front of the grid actually tell the drivers how long they've got until the start of the Grand Prix. And they slowly go down from 5 red lights to 0 at the start of the formation lap. And then they do the light sequence again at the start of the Grand Prix. 2 red lights still showing, though, at the front of the grid. Kimi Antonelli has taken his pole position spot. Medium compound tires on every single car, which is an interesting choice, but clearly everybody thinking about the same strategy and also probably thinking about the possibility of some rain later in the afternoon. Kimi Antonelli wants to get on with it by the looks of things. Antonelli, as soon as those lights went green, was ready to go. Verstappen follows him around the first corner. Leclerc, Norris, Russell, our top 5. Hamilton then starts in 6th place. We've got Piastri alongside Colapinto in 7th and 8th. Isaac Hadjar's disqualification from qualifying yesterday means that Pierre Gasly inherits 9th spot. 10th place has then gone to Nico Hülkenberg, who starts inside of the point scoring positions. Then Lawson and Behrman start just outside. Lawson starting 11th, Behrman in 12th. Carlos Sainz starts the race in 13th place. 14th place is Esteban Ocon. 15th place, Alex Albon. Arvid Lindblad was the final driver to drop out of Q1 yesterday. He starts in 16th place, though, today. Then we have the 2 Aston Martins with Fernando Alonso 17th and Lance Stroll 18th. The 2 Cadillacs in 19th and 20th place. Gabriel Bortoleto, who was on fire during the sprint race yesterday, is in 21st. And Isaac Hadjar, 22nd position. Antonelli just coming through the slow part of the track through turn 12, 13, 14, and 15. in that long back straight before we get underway with some racing. Keeping an eye on Gabriel Bortoleto, who will be at the back of the pack. Oh, no, sorry, Isaac Hadjar. Oh, no, Hadjar starting from the pit lane. Will be Gabriel Bortoleto being the final driver to take his position. Then we will get the green flag waved at the back of the grid, and we'll be on for 57 laps of the Grand Prix. A lot of weaving taking place on the back straight, probably really having to generate some heat in that tyres. Obviously, the track looks fairly dry, but there'll still be damp areas, particularly offline, and also you can see the painted blue areas certainly look a little bit slippery. Kimi Antonelli, though, making his way around the final couple of corners now. Bortoleto just joining the rest on the back straight. We know that Antonelli has struggled with the starts, though. Mercedes had a poor start in the sprint race yesterday and actually said it wasn't Kimi Antonelli's fault in any way. So Antonelli's got a little bit of a task ahead of him if the Mercedes car just isn't able to perform race starts in the way that they would hope. Kimi has indeed pointed his car across to the right-hand side, knowing that Max Verstappen will be the car fighting for position with him likely down towards turn 1, although Max Verstappen also hasn't had the best of starts throughout the 2026 season either. Antonelli still covering off and making sure that he can come across to the right-hand side of the track if Max Verstappen does decide to try and make a move. Gabriel Bortoleto just coming around the final corner then. The grid is getting set. 4 different teams take the first 4 spots. Antonelli, Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris are the guys to keep an eye on as we go down towards the first corner. The green flag is waved. The starting procedure begins. We see the lights along the side of the grid. And now the lights at the front of the grid. 5 red lights between the start of the Grand Prix. And here we go again. Kimi Antonelli does bog down a little bit. Charles Leclerc alongside. And Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari swoops around Antonelli and Verstappen both go deep. Antonelli locks up massively into turn 1, has let the door open. Oh, and it's a spin! It's a spin. Max Verstappen's lost it. Was there contact there with Charles Leclerc? We'll have to wait and see. Charles Leclerc, though, continues on. Verstappen tumbles down the order. Antonelli up into second place still, despite that big lock up into turn 1. Oscar Piastri, a stunning start for him in the McLaren car. He's up into 4th place. Russell stays in 5th. Colapinto has managed to get past Lewis Hamilton, but we do have a new race leader in Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, brilliant start from him, and actually let Antonelli and Verstappen just flip around in front of him. And Leclerc disappeared into the distance. Lewis Hamilton now trying to go around the outside of Franco Colapinto, and there's a touch. Hamilton and Colapinto certainly come together. Max Verstappen trying to make his way back past Liam Lawson. And there's definitely a little bit of contact between those two as well. The two Williamses now side by side with one another, with Sainz and Albon in 10th and 11th place. Gasly is all the way down into 12th. And it's a little bit chaotic through this first lap. Charles Leclerc, though, a little bit of clean air behind him, thankfully. He'll be happy to just see Kimi Antonelli at arm's distance as George Russell has a little look at Oscar Piastri. Nothing doing this time around. Hamilton is back ahead of Colapinto. How much damage has been done to Colapinto's car as Max Verstappen pushes his way inside and trying to overtake the Williams cars, and he's going to be side by side with Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. Just manages to keep that position. It's Verstappen ahead of Albon, but Albon's going to come back at him down towards turn 1. Verstappen the inside line, and Verstappen takes the position as Pierre Gasly takes the opportune moment to also get past Carlos Sainz. So Verstappen now 9th, Albon 10th, Gasly 11th, Carlos Sainz 12th. But it's chaos between those cars too. Hamilton and Colapinto must have picked up a little bit of damage. Neither of them coming into the pits, though. It's the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg, which has come into the pits. Some damage to Nico Hülkenberg's car amongst the melee that started at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, though, leads still. Leclerc, Antonelli, Norris, Piastri are top 4 at the moment. George Russell in 5th. And Hamilton down in 6th place, Colapinto 7th, Verstappen 8th, Lawson 9th, and Albon 10th are our current points position runners. Gasly the closest, now down in 11th, which will be disappointing for the Alpine, considering he started right alongside his teammate, who is now running in 7th. Charles Leclerc, though, disappearing away from the rest of the pack. Antonelli still just about within a second of the car in front of him, but Antonelli is certainly going to be happy to see that he is not under as much pressure as he was probably expecting. George Russell trying to have a little look at Oscar Piastri. Poos to the right-hand side as Oscar Piastri. And George Russell down towards turn 1, gets the inside line and gets 4th position from Oscar Piastri. So the McLaren car back behind the Mercedes as they were on the grid. George Russell up into 4th place. Piastri still up a couple of positions into 5th from the starting grid. Lewis Hamilton 6th place, still exactly where he started. Colapinto 7th. And there is going to be a little investigation between Colapinto and Hamilton. I'll just highlight that for you. Incident involving Lewis Hamilton and Franco Colapinto at turn 11 has been noted, causing a collision. It'll be interesting to see who comes out of that with a possible penalty, or whether the stewards decide that there was nothing doing there. Kimi Antonelli and Lando Norris following behind Charles Leclerc. Actually, now Lando Norris within boost mode distance of Kimi Antonelli. Obviously, the overtake detection point just around turn 17, so needs to stay that 0.8 behind. Antonelli using a little bit of his boost now to just close the gap to Charles Leclerc ahead. Also gets a bit of slipstream too. So we could see all three of those cars, both of those cars behind Charles Leclerc with boost going into this next lap. That is the overtake line that you see just after turn 17. George Russell is 1.8 seconds adrift in 4th place. Piastri in 5th. And Lando Norris has set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix of anybody so far, 132.7. On board with the McLaren driver right now. And Lewis Hamilton has caused some damage. Oh, and it's some big damage to the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, costing him a good chunk of time per lap. So the likelihood of Hamilton getting involved with the 5 drivers ahead of him is very, very slim. Apparently some damage to the side of the Ferrari. And Antonelli having a look at Charles Leclerc down towards turn 11. And for a moment, it looked like Antonelli might take that position. Charles Leclerc, though, does close the door on the Italian driver for now. Kimi Antonelli has had a couple of laps looking at the back of the Ferrari car and has decided now's the opportunity to give it a go. He gets a little bit out of shape out of turn 16, though, does Kimi Antonelli. It's going to be tough for him to really close the gap to Charles Leclerc as they go down this back straight. Antonelli, though, does have the extra boost, does have the straight line speed advantage, tries to go to the inside line, and Antonelli's got it. Antonelli up the inside of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc now gets the overtake boost, though, for this next lap. Will he use it down towards turn 1? Antonelli moves to the inside, tries to cover off the apex, and Antonelli stays ahead of the Ferrari. So we've got Kimi Antonelli back in the lead of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, though, now with the extra power at his disposal, and Lando Norris waiting in the wings just in case they make a mistake. Lando Norris on the radio. Lando Norris being told on the radio, be patient, let them swap position, let them fight one another, and you can be the opportunistic driver in all of this. If Antonelli or Leclerc does make a mistake whilst going for an overtake, as Charles Leclerc sweeps around the outside for turn 11 and into the lead once again. Oh, almost got speechless there. Charles Leclerc retakes the lead from Antonelli. Charles Leclerc now ahead of Kimi Antonelli once again on lap 5 of 57. George Russell 1.5 seconds behind. We'll be looking at those two and hoping that they actually have a little bit more of a fight so that he can close into overtake mode. Piastri then just over a second behind Russell for now. Hamilton is slowly falling away from the back of the pack of 5 that we've got here, as Max Verstappen now makes a little look. Oh, and it's Isaac Hadjar in the wall. Isaac Hadjar is in the wall. It's a mistake from Hadjar. He's come to a stop. And that looks like it might be a safety car as Lando Norris goes for a move. And Lando Norris gets the position from Kimi Antonelli. Norris up into second place. Feels like it probably will be a safety car as Isaac Hadjar has had to come to a stop and collided with the wall. I'll keep you updated if we see a replay of what happened there. But Hadjar is out of this race and the safety car is then called. Oh my goodness. And it's Pierre Gasly at turn 17 as well. So not only has Hadjar gone awry, Pierre Gasly is also looking the wrong way. Hadjar sat in his Red Bull, thumping his steering wheel in frustration, thumping his helmet in frustration, and absolutely disappointed with how that's gone. Haven't seen a replay of either incident yet, though. Hadjar and Gasly now both out of this Grand Prix in 2 separate incidents that are both worthy of a safety car. So we have indeed got the safety car deployed. Charles Leclerc leading this Grand Prix. Lando Norris was very opportunistic there. Right before the safety car was deployed, just snuck ahead of Kimi Antonelli into turn 1. Takes second position from the Italian, so he's down 2 places from the start of the Grand Prix. George Russell up a place into 4th. Max Verstappen was having a little run at Franco Colapinto. Verstappen not able to get past the Argentine at the moment. Colapinto still in 7th place. Verstappen in 8th. Albon and Sainz now looking at a double points finish for Williams being on the cards. Albon running in 9th. Carlos Sainz in 10th at the moment. And let's just see what happened to Pierre Gasly as that Alpine car is not only pointing the wrong way, but one of its wheels also propped up on the barriers. So Pierre Gasly has jumped out of that Alpine car, has walked away. What happened to Max Verstappen? He got spun around at the start. And Verstappen is actually being told to box. Verstappen does come in under safety car conditions. It's an early pit stop and a gamble from the Red Bull team. Is anybody else going to follow suit? Not sure they will. Verstappen comes in. It's a decent stop of 2.4 seconds. He's going to fall all the way to the back of the grid, though, is Max Verstappen. And here's what happened with Hadjar. Oh, just gets it. Oh, he thumped the wall on the left and then just couldn't steer and just goes straight into the barriers just after turn 15 before they get to turn 16. And then this is what happens. Pierre Gasly comes into turn. Oh, and actually did a full rotation. Pierre Gasly was upside down for a moment there. Came the right way up again. Fighting side by side with Liam Lawson going down in towards turn 17. Here's the onboard of it with Gasly. Gasly looking at the back of Lawson's car. Goes to the right-hand side. Lawson has the inside line. Gasly is ahead. And then maybe... does he give him just enough racing room on the inside? Let's have a look at it from Lawson's perspective. Lawson also locks up. Lawson locks up a little bit, and that's where the front right tyre of Liam Lawson just catches the rear left tyre of Pierre Gasly and sends Pierre Gasly for a full 360 spin over the top of the car. He's upside down for a second there and then props the wheel. And there it was. It was Charles Leclerc that came in contact with Verstappen. We're seeing all the replays now at the start of the Grand Prix. Through turn 3, Verstappen just gets a little bit closer to Leclerc, and Leclerc sends him for a spin. Antonelli was a fairly decent start from Antonelli. Didn't look, but then just bogged down and allowed Charles Leclerc that opportunity to go around the outside, and then actually went super deep into turn 1. Did Kimi Antonelli. Has to then be a little bit careful as he sees Max Verstappen do a full 360 spin in front of him as well. And my goodness me, Max Verstappen now running down in 16th place. starting in second. And Max, is there actually a contact there between Leclerc and Hamilton? Leclerc and Verstappen? I think actually Verstappen just gets a little bit too much curb and maybe just sends the car for a pirouette. I think just maybe saw Charles Leclerc on the inside line there. Charles Leclerc, though, absolutely nailed it. Round the outside of Kimi Antonelli, down towards turn 1. Just let Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli outbrake themselves. Oh, yeah, there definitely is a little bit of a touch to Charles Leclerc. You can see the vibration on the onboard camera from Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen coming together. Lando Norris just has to watch as all of this happens in front of him. Max Verstappen really aggressive. Max went to the right-hand side, closed off the gap. Lando Norris going absolutely nowhere there. And actually a very solid start from Lando Norris there. Had to deviate from where he wanted to go because Verstappen comes across to fight him. No further investigation, says the stewards, with Hamilton and Colapinto as they collided down into turn 11. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of chaos that is going on right now. Verstappen and Lindblad, I think they're also getting a little close to one another. Oh, sorry, Lawson, not Lindblad. Pierre Gasly under investigation. And it is, well, it's been certainly an exciting opening 8 laps of the Miami Grand Prix. And Carlos Sainz not very happy at all with how Max Verstappen dealt with overtaking the Williams driver. Carlos Sainz then fighting back with Pierre Gasly. There's Isaac Hadjar. See what happened to Isaac Hadjar here then. So he's going through. This was his overtake. Overtook Arvid Lindblad. Coming through the final part of the second sector. Turn 12 looks fine. Turn 13, fine. Turn 14, clips the inside of turn 14 and then just gets sent straight on into the barriers. Over turn 15. And the frustration there from Isaac Hadjar. Looks like Liam Lawson has also come into the pits and is possibly retiring from this Grand Prix too. Lawson is out of the car. And, Lawson, car's damaged and retired the car. So we do have Lawson, Gasly and Hadjar now out of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc leading as he was out of the first couple of corners. Then got overtaken by Kimi Antonelli. Back into the lead, though, Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris then took that opportunity to get a little jump on Kimi Antonelli too. So Antonelli now down into 3rd place after starting on pole. George Russell has gained a position thanks to Max Verstappen falling down the order. He's in 4th spot. Oscar Piastri has moved past Lewis Hamilton and, of course, gained on Max Verstappen as well. So Piastri's up into 5th. Hamilton's where he started in 6th. Colapinto's moved up a place into 7th. And then it is all chaos behind there. Albon and Carlos Sainz. Albon up 7 positions since the start of the Grand Prix, ahead of his teammate. And Albon looking at an 8th place finish. Carlos Sainz is up in 9th. And Ollie Behrman has inherited the final point scoring position, with Max Verstappen having made a pit stop from inside of the point scoring places after that pirouette at the start of the Grand Prix too. So Ollie Behrman into 10th place. Ocon, Lindblad, Perez, Bortoletto, Stroll, Verstappen, Alonso and Bottas all still going at the moment. And Zach Brown being asked about how it's going with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. And I would say generally pretty good. They're both up a couple of positions. Norris up into the podium places. Piastri maybe a little bit frustrated that he hasn't been able to keep George Russell behind him, but Piastri has not been the most happy with that McLaren car this weekend. And Lawson and Gasly, I think both of their incidents now being investigated after the race. Yep, will be investigated after the session. So no penalty given to Hamilton or Colapinto. And the Lawson-Gasly collision It's going to be investigated after the Grand Prix. I mean, both of them have now retired. Nico Hulkenberg has also joined that pack in the pits. Hulkenberg has just come in with his Audi and retired the car. So we now have 4 drivers who have fallen. Hulkenberg, Lawson, Gasly, Hadjar all out of this Grand Prix. Piastri on the radio. Possible short shower on lap 25 that could be heavy, but not long duration. Ooh, lap 25. Obviously, we don't know whether that's assuming that they're still going to be behind the safety car or not for the next few laps. Because a safety car lap and a full racing lap are very different times, as you can see from the board. Charles Leclerc's last lap at 2.27, or 2 minute 27. His flying laps, or racing laps, I should say, at 1:33. So keep an eye on that. Could be sort of 20 minutes time, maybe. Is 15 laps time. Under racing conditions, a possible shower coming our way. That would certainly spice things up even more than we have seen it spiced up already. How is Verstappen 15th? Because 16th, he decided to pit under the safety car conditions. So he was sort of running around fighting with Colapinto and Albon in that mix of the midfield, which, considering he did a full 360 at the start of the race and did collide with Charles Leclerc, could have been a lot worse for Max Verstappen. But then decides to pit as well, so is on a hard set of tyres now, Max Verstappen. But considering he started P2, not sure he would have taken a P16 after 11 laps of the Grand Prix. Safety car is still out. They have been able to move Isaac Hadjar's car off the track. They're also just dealing with Pierre Gasly's car at the same time. And both of those incidents, interesting that both of those incidents kind of happened at the same time, because it allows us to get almost 2 safety car things out of the way using just 1 safety car. Colapinto looking good. Colapinto does look great. He's had a really, really good weekend in Miami as Colapinto. Very impressed with how he's been doing this weekend. Has outqualified Gasly twice. Okay, yeah, missed out on the points where Gasly picked up the points in the Miami sprint race. But now looking at a solid point scoring position. And, okay, yes, Gasly got 1 point during the sprint race. Colapinto on for 6 points if he can stay in 7th spot. So a 5-point swing over the weekend in favour of Colapinto. Of course, it's not going to catch him up to Pierre Gasly or anything like that, but very, very nice haul of points. And in fact, we could have a little look at the point scoring positions. Let me just grab the championship board very quickly. I hadn't thought about that until now. There we go. Let's have a little look at how the championship would line up. Obviously, the safety car is now ending. Of course it is, as I say that. We've got a couple of seconds, though, just to remind you what the championship looks like at the moment. Lando Norris would move up a position. If he does finish in 2nd spot, Hamilton moved down to 5th place. So the Ferrari-McLaren battle would sort of firmly start happening. Although you would still be a fair drift away from Charles Leclerc, who'd pick up 25 points for the weekend. Behrman, an extra point for him, keeps him in 7th place for now. But it's Colapinto, the big mover, as I said, gaining 6 points, up 5 places. Albon would be up 5 places as well as it stands. Lance Stroll would actually overtake Fernando Alonso at this point in the season too, with a higher finish to his name. So that's kind of where we're at with the championship. But Charles Leclerc backing up the pack as he makes his way through turn 17. And we're going to be back racing once again. Charles Leclerc through turn 17 he goes. Launches the car out of 18 and he's off. Tries to keep Lando Norris at bay. Lando Norris looking in his wing mirrors and checking where Kimi Antonelli is. George Russell going side by side with Oscar Piastri. Piastri pushed wide at turn 1, but Piastri's going to hold on to the position. And Piastri up into 4th place. And now Lewis Hamilton looking at George Russell. George Russell is all at sea and suddenly under threat from Hamilton too. But Hamilton can't quite do it. Colapinto stays 7th, Albon 8th, Carlos Sainz 9th, and Behrman's in 10th still. Max Verstappen wasn't able to get past Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, though, not going to be too much of a problem for Max Verstappen as they make their way through this first lap. And there is Max Verstappen moving up past the Aston Martin and up into 15th place. We'll keep an eye on Verstappen as he's making his way through the field on the hard compound tyre. But we're also looking at the two Mercedes cars bearing down on the two McLarens. Antonelli very close to the back of Lando Norris. George Russell the same behind Oscar Piastri. And Piastri on the radio. Super dangerous by Russell, says Oscar Piastri on the radio. Not very happy with the sporting conduct of the Mercedes car behind him. Lando Norris, though, trying to escape away from Kimi Antonelli. That front three just disappearing up the road a touch from Piastri in fourth. Piastri outside of boost range now. So as they go through the overtake detection point, and it is going to be Norris and Antonelli both with boost available to them. George Russell's going to have boost. Hamilton's going to have boost. Piastri, the main person in that pack that is not going to have boost available to him. Antonelli is also right underneath the rear wing of Lando Norris, having a little look, although Lando Norris does set the fastest lap of the race there inside of his McLaren car, 132.5 from Lando Norris. Very decent lap time from him indeed. There's a lot of drivers all vying for position, and a lot of drivers kind of maybe a little bit out of where you'd expect them to be at this point in the race, as Lando Norris now looking to try and go back-to-back. He won the sprint yesterday, and he's taken the lead for the first time today in the Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc tries to come back at him into turn 11, can't do it, and Lando Norris now leads the Grand Prix from Charles Leclerc, and he's got to be a little bit careful. Kimi Antonelli is lurking. George Russell on the radio. Wrong strat mode for George Russell. That left him a sitting duck to Piastri. And then Lewis Hamilton also had a little look as well. Kimi Antonelli now looking at the two in front of him. Is Kimi Antonelli going to have a little look at Charles Leclerc as well? Charles Leclerc, since the safety car, looks like a sitting duck. Antonelli into the inside line. Charles Leclerc's going to have to go to the outside to defend and not able to do it. Antonelli has come back at him, and now Charles Leclerc has gone from first to third within the space of a lap. Is he going to be able to come back at Antonelli down towards turn one? Yes, he is. Tries to go around the outside, swoops ahead of Kimi Antonelli and retakes the position into second spot. This is some beautiful racing that we're seeing from the guys at the front of the pack here. Lando Norris absolutely gleaming at the fact that Charles Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli are fighting for position behind. Lando Norris disappears into the lead then and will be outside of boost range of Charles Leclerc if he can keep this distance. Antonelli, though, will get boost back. Of course, Leclerc gets that boost because he was behind Antonelli going through turn 17. Oscar Piastri has also got himself a little bit of a gap to George Russell now. 1.2 seconds the gap between them. And here we go. Antonelli having a little look and a fight with Charles Leclerc side by side. And Antonelli's moved back up into second place. Absolute chaos between those two. And again, Lando Norris is just going to be hoping that these two keep fighting with one another and let him escape up the road a touch. Antonelli now back up into second spot. Charles Leclerc trying to come back at him down towards turn 17, maybe. Doesn't have the same straight line speed as Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes car and has to decide to stick behind Antonelli for now. So it is Norris, Antonelli, Leclerc, our top three in that order. Piastri still closest in fourth. Verstappen all the way down in 12th is making a little move on Arvid Lindblad and having a look at Esteban Ocon, and oh my goodness, Max Verstappen getting a little bit tense for him inside of the Red Bull car, but trying to get his way back through the field into the point scoring positions once again. Alex Albon has fallen a touch behind Colapinto. Carlos Sainz having a look at his teammate. Behrman also outside of overtake range as Esteban Ocon now sees Max Verstappen in the left wing mirror. And Max Verstappen takes that position from Ocon. as they make their way through the first sector. Verstappen up into 11th place now, but still keeping an eye on Charles Leclerc as he follows Kimi Antonelli once more. Oscar Piastri closing the gap to the top 3, is almost within overtake range. Russell and Hamilton now having a little tete-a-tete. Carlos Sainz making a move on Alex Albon and gets the move done. Carlos Sainz up into 8th place for Williams, takes his teammate's position. Albon down into 9th, and Ollie Behrman now rear wing filled with Red Bull. Max Verstappen is right under the gearbox of Ollie Behrman and the point scoring positions. Behrman open in that rear wing, but is it going to be enough to keep Max Verstappen at bay? Possibly this time around. Verstappen having a look up the inside of Behrman, breaks to the later, and Max Verstappen going for the move on Ollie Behrman. And does indeed get that done into turn 17. Verstappen up into 10th place. Verstappen then 1.3 seconds now adrift. There's yellow flags being waved. And just for a moment, I think Verstappen now up into 10th place. The yellow flags being withdrawn. Track is clear. Of course, Verstappen has pitted, is on the hard compound tyre. Are they going for the one-stop strategy? Are they going super long on those hard compound tyres? If you look at the gap from Verstappen to the lead of the race, he is only 13 seconds adrift. About a 20-second, 22-second pit stop here. So if those 9 cars in front of him were to decide to stop right now, Verstappen would be in the lead of this Grand Prix. But Verstappen is doing a very good job inside of that Red Bull car and certainly cannot be counted out because he's already made that pit stop under the safety car conditions where the other cars haven't. And whilst Antonelli has actually fallen a touch back from Lando Norris, that McLaren in the clean air, as we saw in the sprint race, does allow Lando Norris to get the best out of it, and he has now just elongated a bit of a lead from Antonelli. Antonelli still having to keep an eye on Charles Leclerc behind. Here comes Max Verstappen on Alex Albon. Goes very deep into turn 17. Albon does the little switcheroo back up the inside, and Max Verstappen maybe almost loses a little bit of front wing, possibly Max Verstappen, but then has a look at Albon once again into turn 1 and again goes deep, Max Verstappen. He's not leaving a lot of room for his competitors. And Albon does eventually concede the position. Max Verstappen now takes 9th place. And Carlos Sainz is the next driver in line. We are just seeing Verstappen making some lunges up the inside. Did not leave a lot of space for Alex Albon at turn 17. Nor did he leave a lot of space for Alex Albon in turn 1. Charles Leclerc's having a little fight with Oscar Piastri though. Piastri was ahead of Charles Leclerc there just for a moment. Charles Leclerc retakes 3rd place from him. Bit of a battle between Leclerc and Piastri for the final podium place is ahead of us. Antonelli will be pleased to see that as Charles Leclerc has now fallen 3 seconds adrift of Kimi Antonelli. Alonso is under investigation for a yellow flag infringement. Currently running in 17th place, though, Fernando Alonso, ahead of Lance Stroll once again. Stroll down into 18th. Hülkenberg, Lawson, Gasly and Hadjar all out of the Grand Prix, by the way. Gasly and Hadjar, some collisions with the barriers. And, well, Gasly in particular, collision with Liam Lawson, which also meant Lawson retired the car after damage and Nico Hülkenberg joining them in the pits. Remember, Max Verstappen has made a pit stop, and Verstappen 13.9 seconds off the lead of this Grand Prix. So with that 20 seconds added to the cars in front of him, Max Verstappen technically leading as he now also makes a move on Carlos Sainz and gets a move done on Carlos Sainz to take 8th place from him. Now has a little bit of clean air to run into, does Max Verstappen. Colapinto is next up in the list of drivers on Max Verstappen's move. Oh, it's the bollard. And Max Verstappen not very happy at all with Alex Albon squeezing him towards a bollard on the right-hand side of the track as they go... Oh, and that was where Charles Leclerc made a mistake, and that's why Oscar Piastri was able to make a little bit of a lunge. Actually, it was Charles Leclerc's fault. Leclerc gets all out of shape coming out of turn 8, was able to get the slipstream and boost back past Oscar Piastri into turn 11. But a big mistake from Charles Leclerc opened the door for Oscar Piastri just for a moment. If he did then slam that door shut once again as they reach the end of that sector. Charles Leclerc's tyres looking like they are all over the place. Lando Norris keeping those tyres alive. Sergio Perez radio, the Cadillac team expect a shower in 2 to 3 laps time. We want to survive it. Sergio Perez being told. That would mix things back up again. We've already seen absolute chaos here in Miami. I was a little bit worried it might be the Miami Grand Prix that was just a bit of a snooze fest. But absolutely not. We've seen Lando Norris gain the lead of the Grand Prix. Antonelli yo-yoing back and forwards from first place to third place and now sits in second. Charles Leclerc took the lead of the Grand Prix at the beginning. He's now down in third spot. Oscar Piastri's 4th, Russell 5th, Hamilton 6th, Colapinto still inside of the point scoring places and doing well in 7th. Verstappen up in 8th place now. Verstappen having pitted and on the hard compound tyre, 1.6 seconds adrift of Colapinto, and the 2 Williams cars keeping their points intact at the moment. Carlos Sainz is 9th, Alex Albon in 10th. Ollie Behrman then in 11th spot does have overtake mode to his advantage behind Albon. Gabriel Bortoleto getting side by side with Arvid Lindblad, and Lindblad has to yield as they go through turn 12 and 13. Bortoleto up into 13th spot now. Let's see if that rain does come in a couple of laps time as predicted by Sergio Perez's race engineer. Could completely mix up the order once again. Who goes first? Do the cars towards the back end of the grid even risk an intermediate set of tyres? Do they think the rain is going to last that long? Will it just be a short shower, in which case they'll try and stay on the slick tyres where possible? Max Verstappen failing to follow race director's instructions, crossing the line at the pit entry. So is that the incident where Albon pushed Verstappen that little bit wider towards that bollard? Maybe Max Verstappen is going to get a penalty for it. It's going to be interesting. Going to be investigated after the Grand Prix, though. Norris in 11th spot. Norris in turn 11 right now. Antonelli behind him. Leclerc still with Piastri right in his wing mirrors. Piastri's kind of held on to the back of the Ferrari since being given that overtake boost available to him by closing that gap to under a second. Russell's there in 5th. Verstappen now has caught up to the back of Franco Colapinto as he's making his way around the final couple of corners of the middle sector. They're just coming around turn 16 now. Keep an eye on Max Verstappen versus Franco Colapinto. Fernando Alonso moves past Valtteri Bottas, but here is Max Verstappen underneath the rear wing of Franco Colapinto. Does he go for a move now? No. Decides against it. He has been absolutely slinging that Red Bull into corners, has Max Verstappen, but decides not to do it this time around. And George Russell, box. Russell's called in and does indeed pit. Max Verstappen looks for the inside line on Franco Colapinto and naturally makes it look fairly comfortable indeed. Verstappen now into sixth place, because George Russell has pitted. Russell coming out just behind Esteban Ocon. So Russell comes out in P12, and he is told that the outlap is absolutely critical. Critical outlap for George Russell, so he will be absolutely on it. See his mini sectors as they come through. Mercedes going for a little bit of a strategy switch and possibly trying to go for a bit of an undercut on Oscar Piastri. Russell hoping that they don't see some rain in a few laps' time, as we were told on Sergio Perez's radio. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the radio messages as they come through. Not sure that we've seen any more particular. Box is the call from Charles Leclerc as well. Leclerc is in. They are taking a little bit of a gamble here. Again, if the rain comes in the next couple of laps. Lap 25 was the prediction from the McLaren engineers. Sergio Perez was told in 2 or 3 laps time, 2 or 3 laps ago. And Charles Leclerc does indeed pit. And there goes George Russell. That is a stunning undercut there from George Russell. He's managed to come out in front of Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc was running, remember, a couple of places ahead of George Russell. And George Russell now up into 11th spot, but ahead of Charles Leclerc, who is going to be fighting for the podium places, we thought. Wow. Very good pit stop and strategy choice from George Russell and Mercedes, it seems. Unless we do get some rain. We keep getting radio messages saying it could be any moment now. Got Bottas and Stroll have both come into the pits towards the back end of the pack as well. Bottas, his second pit stop of the race already. Verstappen, though, and Charles Leclerc asking on the radio, why did we stop? And the Ferrari team, no answer at the moment, but Charles Leclerc, I think, reasonably asking, why did we stop? We're now stuck behind George Russell. Russell's just got past Esteban Ocon, so Ocon now in the way for Leclerc. Leclerc is going to dispatch Esteban Ocon right now, but this is the traffic that they're now coming into, and if these guys don't pit, then Russell and Leclerc have got a real battle ahead of them. You look at Verstappen has already pitted, remember? So Verstappen has indeed come out good in this. Verstappen up in 5th place. You look at where Russell and Leclerc now are in 10th and 11th. Okay, yeah, they're going to have the tyre degradation on their side, but Max Verstappen sitting pretty in 5th all of a sudden. Verstappen is still only 16.8 seconds off the lead. So if Lando Norris pits now, Max Verstappen will be in the lead of this Grand Prix. Possible rain in the next couple of laps should affect turn 7 and 8. Could get heavy is the radio message to Oscar Piastri. Goodness me, how are we feeling in the chat? Are we thinking some rain is on the way? Also, let me know if you're a Charles Leclerc fan. What on earth were Ferrari thinking there? Now down into 10th place. Russell gets past Behrman, so does Charles Leclerc, so they are back up into the point scoring positions. Lando Norris is probably being told to hurry it up a little bit, because as I say, if he pits now, he still comes out behind Verstappen. Charles Leclerc being asked to sort of be part of the decisions when they are deciding to make a pit stop. I mean, Russell did have a really good outlap, to be fair. Was told that the outlap would be critical, and he absolutely nailed it. But Charles Leclerc, around turn 19, now behind George Russell. Russell having a look at the back of Alex Albon's Williams. Very good friends off track, but doesn't mean that Albon is going to let George Russell by in any sense of the imagination. Albon holding on to that point scoring place and an 8th place for Williams at the moment. And Charles Leclerc down in 10th. Behrman, Ocon, Bortoletto, Lindblad running around just outside of the points. If there is rain, it would be interesting to see what those guys do, because they're in that position where they haven't got too much to lose, really. If you're an Ollie Behrman in 11th spot, you could gamble on some intermediate tyres if you wanted to, as Alex Albon really does defend heavily from George Russell. Russell, though, goes to the inside line at turn 11. And lovely little bit of trust between those two. Williams going very well indeed. Ollie Behrman being told on the radio, the rain cell above they think will be light, so therefore they are thinking of staying out. So Ollie Behrman deciding against any kind of big strategy moves at this moment in time. Charles Leclerc, that Macarena rear wing on the car. Lovely to see the upside down rear wing getting some actual running in the race. And Charles Leclerc uses it to his advantage and gets past Alex Albon as well. So Russell and Sainz both past Alex Albon. They are kind of going through the midfield pack 2 by 2. Charles Leclerc trying not to let George Russell get too far away from him. And needs to get back past him if he's got any chance of a podium in front of him as well. Remember, it's a 19-second pit stop at the moment, or roughly so. So Norris, if he pitted now, would come out between Verstappen and Colapinto. Antonelli would actually come out behind Franco Colapinto as it stands, even with a fairly decent pit stop. So if the pit stops do start tumbling, and again, we've got a little bit of a possibility of rain, and actually Kimi Antonelli on the radio, it's raining sector 2. Kimi Antonelli saying on the radio already there is starting to drizzle and quite a few spits of rain, says Lando Norris. So have those cars that pitted early, your Charles Leclerc's, your George Russells, are they going to get caught out? Will they have to pit again if it starts showering even harder for some intermediate tyres? And then they really have messed up the strategy at Ferrari. They could have just stayed out. Don't know why they didn't stay out. Charles Leclerc doesn't know why they didn't stay out. Seems like a really awkward situation that Ferrari have put themselves in. It's not the first time we've said that, though, in Formula One in recent years. Ferrari and Charles Leclerc still behind George Russell, sorry. Just looking at Lando Norris's pace in clean air, I think he is now starting to push it a little bit. There is certainly a little bit of rain coming down. A few drivers. Sector 2, turn 13 on the chicane. 12 and 13. Some drops being reported, says Lance Stroll. So it is starting to come towards the track. Is it going to be heavy enough that it changes a few of these guys' ideas of what they need to do? Rear wing open on Lewis Hamilton's car as he now has Max Verstappen in his wing mirrors. Verstappen is making a real run at this, isn't he? Absolutely tearing through the field. It's caught back up to Lewis Hamilton now as Max Verstappen, and he's thinking about trying to get past that Ferrari sooner rather than later. Bortoletto on the radio being told that the rain will only be light and for around 5 laps. But here we go then. The rear wing of Max Verstappen's car wide open. It is a huge gap that Red Bull wing allows. Reducing the drag, going down the inside of turn 17, and Max Verstappen gets it done. Of course he does, up into 4th place. Kimi Antonelli has come into pit as well. Antonelli does indeed pit, so Mercedes not worried about this rain. But he's going to come out behind Verstappen and Hamilton. Colapinto now coming around. Did he manage to just about get the gap good enough? He did. He would have been behind Colapinto a couple of laps ago. So a good couple of laps from Antonelli has made sure that he has come out in front of Franco Colapinto. Ollie Behrman into the pits as well. Max Verstappen then, he has done 20 laps on those hard compound tyres. So we'll kind of see where that gets him later on in the Grand Prix. Because at the moment, Piastri and Norris would come out behind Max Verstappen. They'd also come out behind Lewis Hamilton. Norris needs to be careful here because Norris needs to kind of pit to cover off Antonelli. Antonelli's now on that sort of margin. He's 20 seconds adrift is Kimi Antonelli. Now down to 19.8. So if Kimi Antonelli gets within 19 seconds, Lando Norris is going to come in and cover off Antonelli then. But it does mean that Max Verstappen is going to be ahead of Lando Norris. And actually, when Piastri comes in, Max Verstappen will be leading the race. Because Piastri is only 13 seconds behind Norris and a good chunk of time away from leading this Grand Prix. Lando Norris, very slick stop. Hamilton box, so Max Verstappen doesn't have to worry about Hamilton coming back at him. Antonelli coming around the final couple of corners. Oh, this is going to be close between Lando Norris and Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli's going to come out right beside Lando Norris. And Antonelli is going to go wheel to wheel with Lando Norris through the first sector. And Antonelli's going to get him. Those tyres a little bit warmer on Kimi Antonelli's car, is able to hold that a little bit more grip through the first couple of corners. They came out side by side with one another. It looked like Lando Norris was going to have the position. And then Kimi Antonelli jumps in front of him. So Lando Norris does lose that spot to Kimi Antonelli. That was the risk. Stayed out just that extra lap longer. And Russell and Antonelli both gaining massively by pitting just ahead of their rivals. Russell coming out in front of Leclerc. Antonelli now ahead of Lando Norris, right under the rear wing of Max Verstappen too. Verstappen, of course, has pitted already. A 20-lap tyre difference between Antonelli and Verstappen. But will Antonelli have the pace to come at him? Oscar Piastri surely will pit, I would imagine. And Max Verstappen will lead the Grand Prix, if only for a moment, as Kimi Antonelli is already looking at trying to make a move on Max Verstappen. Piastri does indeed pit, so Verstappen is now leading the Grand Prix, but Lando Norris is actually going to be the one to try and make a move first. Antonelli was probably eyeing up a move on Verstappen, but Lando Norris coming at Kimi Antonelli straight off the bat. They're battling away with one another now for second place. Max Verstappen will be more than happy to see that behind him. Colapinto has still stayed out, hasn't yet pitted. He's in 4th spot. Russell's pitted. He's in 5th. Oscar Piastri comes out and is still ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So Oscar Piastri remains 7th. Hamilton 8th. Ocon is up into 9th place, but hasn't yet stopped. Bortoleto hasn't stopped. Sainz hasn't stopped either. So we are seeing a little bit of strategy playing into the positions right now as Antonelli has a little look at Max Verstappen, does get past Max Verstappen. Can Lando Norris do the same and follow him around? No. Lando Norris is going to be stuck behind Verstappen through this turn 11, 12, 13 part of the track. Lando Norris should have better traction out of turn 16 here. Little bit of slipstream possibly from Verstappen as well. Can Lando Norris get past the Red Bull and get back to fighting for the win? Goes to the left-hand side of the track. Inside line for Lando Norris. Max Verstappen tries to come back at him, though. I think Lando thought he had the move done. Verstappen goes very deep into the corner. That means that Lando Norris has position into turn 18 and does get it done this time around. Just needs Max Verstappen to not make a big lunge at him down towards turn 1, and he should be able to escape away from the Red Bull. Has done that, and now Lando Norris up into 2nd place. So Verstappen's lead was very short, as Charles Leclerc now having a little look at George Russell. They've been able to make their way through the midfield pack together. Charles Leclerc's just kind of left George Russell to it while they've been carving their way back through the midfield. And now that they're fighting for position once again, Charles Leclerc right underneath the rear wing of George Russell's car. Antonelli, fastest lap of the Grand Prix, though, last time around, a 1:32.3. Then Lando Norris in 2nd place. Verstappen is in 3rd. And it's that interesting gap now that we've got. Will Russell and Leclerc be able to catch Verstappen? They have got the better tyres on them. 9-lap-old hards on George Russell's car. 23-lap-old cards. Oh, there's a replay of Oscar Piastri. I thought Oscar Piastri had come in again. No, Oscar Piastri just the one pit stop, and it was a little bit of a slow stop for Piastri. But he's out behind Charles Leclerc, as he was beforehand. It's George Russell who's been the real benefactor of pitting that little bit earlier. Jumped in front of Leclerc and Piastri. It's a drive-through penalty for Valtteri Bottas speeding in the pit lane. Though it's not going to make too much of a difference, as Charles Leclerc once again looking at the rear wing of George Russell's car and thinking about a possible move forwards. Antonelli down towards turn 1. Lando Norris towards turn 1 as well in 2nd place. And here goes Charles Leclerc then. Looks for an opportune moment. George Russell leaves the door a little bit open, and Charles Leclerc actually gets the move done before turn 1 even comes into view. He is around George Russell into 5th place. And Charles Leclerc back ahead of the Mercedes. Will George Russell be able to come back at him? He's closing the gap as they go through this first sector. George Russell right underneath the rear wing of Charles Leclerc. Will we get a little bit more wheel-to-wheel between those two? 24 laps old, those Max Verstappen tyres. And you can see he's already fallen away pretty significantly from the back of Lando Norris. Has become a little bit of a two-horse race at the front. Antonelli and Norris look like they're in a world of their own. Verstappen a little bit adrift. Colapinto obviously has not yet pitted, so in a different battle himself. Then we've got Leclerc and Russell. It's whether or not Leclerc and Russell can really catch up to the back of Max Verstappen and have a fight with him alongside the fight that they're having with each other. Oscar Piastri has just gone for a 131.9 though. Piastri on the hard compound tyre, maybe also inviting himself to the party of fighting for a final podium place. Does look like 3rd place is available to Russell, Verstappen, Leclerc, Piastri. They're all in the mix for it. Colapinto will drop backwards once he pits and stays out, does Colapinto. So, oh no, he has pitted. I was thinking he was going to pit very soon. He's pitted as Colapinto, so he's going to drop back behind Leclerc and Russell and Piastri. Where's Lewis Hamilton? Also going to drop back behind Hamilton. Colapinto will be hoping that he stays in front of Esteban Ocon, though. Even though Ocon hasn't pitted yet, he probably doesn't want to deal with that traffic. And actually, Ocon pits behind Colapinto anyway. Colapinto's looking at a lovely end to this Grand Prix. I know there's still 26 laps left and there's still quite a few things that can happen, but he's come out. He's ahead of Bortoleto by 5 seconds. He's got a lovely bit of clean air in front of him. Lewis Hamilton 10 seconds up the road. This should be a very comfortable 8th place finish for Colapinto, maybe even 7th if he can catch Lewis Hamilton ahead of him. Although Hamilton on the same strategy. Antonelli, Norris in a little league of their own. Lando Norris, though, is 1.4 seconds adrift of Antonelli. Maybe not quite getting these hard compound tyres in the same window he was able to get the mediums, because remember, he was able to take the lead from Kimi Antonelli on the medium tyres earlier in the race, just biding his time a touch, possibly. 1.2 seconds the gap between the two cars at the front. Max Verstappen has fallen 4.8 seconds behind Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc closing in, hopefully, on the back of Max Verstappen. Although actually was a little bit slower than Max Verstappen on the last lap. Actually lost 0.4 of a second to the Red Bull car. George Russell has actually disappeared a touch out of the view of Charles Leclerc. He's 1.7 seconds behind a Ferrari now. So Leclerc less of a worry of George Russell coming back at him, especially as Oscar Piastri is causing the Mercedes car a bit of a headache right now. Piastri has found some pace on the hard compound tyre right under the rear wing of George Russell as they make their way down between turn 8 and turn 11. Will Piastri have a little look at George Russell this time around? A lot of marbles on the outside of the track, but Piastri opts against it this time around. Piastri very, very close to the back of George Russell, though. Antonelli, problem with the gearbox, Antonelli on the radio. How substantial is that problem? 1.1 seconds was the gap. Lando Norris trying to close into overtake range. They are just coming around turn 17 now. That yellow line that you see just after turn 17 is the point at which they measure the overtake from. So if you're within a second at that yellow line, you can then get that extra boost for your overtake mode. And Oscar Piastri sticking underneath George Russell's rear wing is definitely within that 1 second. Will have overtake boost available to him. Both of them Mercedes powered, so the engine should be identical in the two cars. And George Russell under pressure now from Oscar Piastri. Piastri really close to the rear wing of Russell. Will he go for the move into turn 11 this time around? He's much closer than he was last lap to the back of George Russell's car. Antonelli does still lead. It's actually a 1.4 second gap to Lando Norris now in second. So Norris a little bit adrift of Antonelli. Verstappen then 6.7 seconds behind second place. Charles Leclerc being told on the radio there'll be another rain cell in 10 to 15 minutes. We did see a little bit of rain come down, particularly sort of in the corner of the track near turn 11 through to turn 16, but it wasn't anything dramatic. Nobody had to come in and get some intermediate tyres or even some fresh tyres to go through the rain. They have been able to sort themselves out. Will we see a little bit more rain possibly cause some chaos? If you're a Kimi Antonelli fan, you will be hoping for no, because actually Lando Norris has fallen a little bit behind Kimi Antonelli. George Russell does indeed move to the defensive line on Oscar Piastri, though. The Mercedes car trying to keep the McLaren at bay, and Oscar Piastri is right underneath George Russell going through the final couple of corners. Surely Piastri's going to have a little look. Does indeed, down the inside into turn 1. He's later on the brakes. George Russell has to yield, and Oscar Piastri is past George Russell and up into 5th place. Very solid from Oscar Piastri. Now we've got Piastri 3.5 seconds adrift of Leclerc. Leclerc is actually 6.9 seconds off the back of Verstappen and is not catching insanely quickly. It is catching, but it's not a ridiculous amount of speed that Piastri has got in comparison. That Leclerc has got in comparison to Verstappen. And Antonelli actually being given the okay on the gearbox thing. It might be the... Oh, George Russell's going to make another move on Oscar Piastri. He's retaken 5th place down to turn 11. And Piastri couldn't hold on to it for long. Piastri back down into 6th place. But he's going to surely come back at him. Piastri lurking as they go around turn 16. Gets the launch. Piastri has got slightly better tyres. They're 8 laps better off Oscar Piastri's tyres. Got that overtake boost as well. And Piastri is going to go to the inside line down towards turn 17. George Russell has indeed yielded. Piastri gets to the apex. And now, this is interesting though, because that yellow line after turn 17 means that George Russell will now have the boost next lap. And we saw George Russell make the overtake into turn 11. Will he try and come back straight away at Piastri into turn 1? No, he does not. Piastri gets through turn 1 unscathed and unpressurized from George Russell. Here we are then. We did see Antonelli going a little bit quicker than Norris, but Norris has sort of turned it back on once again. Norris into the 131.8 last time around is closing in to the back of Kimi Antonelli's car. The problem Antonelli also now has is a Stroll-shaped Aston Martin and a Perez-shaped Cadillac in front of him to have to deal with. Lando Norris having to make their way past the back markers as well. Lance Stroll has now been lapped by the 2 front runners. Here we are then. Piastri ahead of Russell. Still, Russell I thought might come back at him at turn 11. Wasn't able to do it this time around. Russell maybe gearing up for turn 17 instead, as Russell is still really close to the back of Piastri. Piastri needs to escape away from that 1 second margin. And Lando Norris now within that 1 second of Kimi Antonelli. Still a while to go here. 21 laps left of this Miami Grand Prix. Still a big battle for first place. The possibility of a change of podium position as well, as Charles Leclerc trying to close the gap to Max Verstappen down to 5.8 seconds. The gap between the Red Bull and the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc's tyres 15 laps better off than Verstappen, who is ahead of him. Will those hard compound tyres be able to hold on all the way to the end? Franco Colapinto looking very comfortable in 8th spot. 10-second gap to Hamilton in front. 10-second gap to Carlos Sainz behind. It's going to be quite a lonely 20 laps for Franco Colapinto. He's got a Valtteri Bottas back marker to deal with. And then just need to see some consistent laps from Colapinto here. Antonelli on the radio again. Rears are gone. They're dropping quite a bit. It's Kimi Antonelli making his way past another back marker. Sergio Perez this time around. Lando Norris does the same. Lando Norris, though, still 0.8 seconds off the back of Kimi Antonelli's car. Little bit of a slower lap from both as they were dealing with back markers last time around. But let's see if Lando Norris can get there. Kimi Antonelli being told to maybe just try and up the temperature of those rear tyres where possible. But the problem is he's got to do it whilst also looking at Lando Norris lurking in the background every time he checks his wing mirrors. Antonelli's first, Lando Norris second, Verstappen currently on the podium. Charles Leclerc in fourth spot, Piastri in fifth, George Russell sixth, Hamilton seventh. The driver missing out of the top four teams there that you're looking for is Isaac Hadjar, who clipped the wall at turn 14 and sent himself for an early shower. He's in 22nd place and out of this Grand Prix. It was the safety car that was very early in this Grand Prix, caused by Hadjar and Gasly, sort of a mixture of the two. Completely separate incidents. Turn 14 was Isaac Hadjar into the wall. Turn 17, Gasly came into a collision with Lawson. Took Gasly and Lawson both out of the race. Hulkenberg also retiring whilst we were under safety car conditions. So Valtteri Bottas, the final running car. Stroll, Perez, Alonso, that Aston Martin Cadillac back four that we have come to expect. Limblad then in 14th place. Bortoletto still running in 13th. Ocon in 12th. Behrman in 11th. Both of the Williams cars inside of the points at the moment. Albon and Sainz in 10th and 9th respectively. And Colapinto currently running the midfield in 8th spot. Lewis Hamilton 10 seconds ahead of Colapinto in 7th. Lewis Hamilton also with a little bit of a sort of boring end to this Grand Prix for him, I'd imagine. 5 seconds adrift of George Russell. Damage to that Ferrari car after a collision with Colapinto. And just kind of running around all by himself. Fight for first place still going on as Lando Norris is just holding on. He's a little bit quicker than Antonelli every lap, but we're talking less than a 10th quicker than Kimi Antonelli every single lap. So is closing in, but still not within striking distance, you would say. Lando Norris inside the McLaren car at the moment on lap 39 of this Grand Prix. Lando Norris looking at the back again, sort of closing in as we go down the back straight, but not anywhere close to getting an overtake done. Still within a second of Kimi Antonelli as they go through the overtake detection point. Charles Leclerc still 5.7 seconds adrift of Verstappen, and Verstappen doing an amazing job holding on to those hard compound tyres, considering he pushed them to the absolute limits of their lives when he was coming through the midfield. Was going for very deep late braking manoeuvres as he was going past the Hasses and Williamses. But Verstappen actually looking pretty good. Just whether or not those tyres hold on. McLaren looking to try and take back-to-back victories here in Miami. Lando Norris did win the sprint race yesterday. Of course, his first Formula One Grand Prix victory came here in Miami in 2024. It was an opportunistic safety car maneuver that allowed Lando Norris to get himself into the lead, and then he disappeared into the distance. If he wants to win this Miami Grand Prix, now that he is a world champion in Formula One, he's going to have to get past Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes car. Antonelli still leading. Another back marker now in the way as Fernando Alonso has been joined by Antonelli and Norris. Fernando Alonso giving those blue flags waved at him. Will move out of the way of Antonelli and hopefully move out of the way of Lando Norris in a fairly swift move, and does indeed. Alonso keeps himself to the left-hand side of the track and well out of the way of the leading two. Fernando Alonso really not bothering either of the two front runners, probably just hating every single moment of this Grand Prix. I'd imagine Fernando Alonso is 12 seconds behind Lindblad. He's got nothing to do and has been lapped. 39 laps, though, he has completed on those medium tyres, Fernando Alonso. So he's continuing on and just, I don't know, seeing how long they'll go before they pop. Maybe that's his sort of task for the afternoon, is just seeing how many laps he can do and how ridiculously long a stint he can do on those mediums. Does bode well, though, if you're Max Verstappen. Fernando Alonso has been able to do 39 laps on those medium tyres. If you're on the hard compound tyre, you got to do, well, if Max Verstappen isn't going to stop again, a considerable distance more than 39, to be fair, but currently on 34 laps completed on those hard compound tyres with 17 laps left to go. Be 51 laps on those hard compound tyres for Max Verstappen by the end of the Grand Prix. George Russell on the radio. And George Russell is just being updated about what we were talking about. Max Verstappen on the hard compound tyre. And looking like they are fairly sturdy, the hard compound tyre. Race has just slowed down a touch at this point. Got everybody settling into their positions a touch. Lando Norris has actually fallen more than a second behind Kimi Antonelli now. Verstappen 14 seconds now adrift of the front two. Charles Leclerc's closing that gap again a little bit at a time. Maybe not rushing it. Maybe knows that he doesn't need to rush it, considering there's 16 laps left. But Leclerc now 3.5 seconds adrift, and actually was over a second quicker than Verstappen last lap, Charles Leclerc. So maybe Verstappen finding the limit of those tyres, but also Verstappen having to deal with Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc now behind the Cadillac of Sergio Perez, making his way through the second sector. Verstappen then trying to catch up to the back of Fernando Alonso, who's the next back marker for the four-time world champion. Another lap goes by, and another lap completed for Kimi Antonelli at the front of this pack. We have had 5 different leaders of this Miami Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc took it from Kimi Antonelli early on. Then Lando Norris was leading. Antonelli's taking it back now. We had Verstappen and Piastri take the lead in and amongst the pit stops. And George Russell on the radio saying that he is sliding around inside of that Mercedes car. So George Russell not very happy at all with the grip that he's got it. Ban the hard tyres. I think that's they certainly are lasting a lot longer than we'd maybe want them to. But that's the thing, right? Pirelli have to be a little bit sort of cautious. They can't make tyres that just last 5 minutes, but at the same time, they also can't make tyres that disintegrate or last forever, in my opinion. So, oops. Max waiting for a safety car. I mean, it's not impossible for it to happen. The problem is there's quite a big gap between a lot of the cars at the moment. Like, Bortoletto is within striking distance of Ocon. It's kind of about it, though. Everybody's kind of settled into their positions for now. And Oscar Piastri being told on the radio that Leclerc will catch Verstappen in about 3 or 4 laps' time. That will indeed be where it gets a little bit tasty on the radio. Charles Leclerc, 2.3 seconds adrift of Verstappen. Verstappen 16.2 seconds behind Lando Norris. 1.9 seconds the gap now between Antonelli and Norris, though. And black and white flag for Valtteri Bottas for ignoring blue flags. Valtteri Bottas really is picking up some penalties today, isn't he? 2 laps then expected to be Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen battling with one another. But Antonelli has found a little bit more now. Lando Norris, maybe those hard compound tyres not quite as scintillating as the medium tyres were on that McLaren car. It's looking like Antonelli might get 3 wins in a row, which is a very, very coveted thing in Formula One. Does not happen a lot, 3 wins in a row. Antonelli absolutely nailing it. 3 wins in a row from his debut win as well. It's absolutely stunning from Kimi Antonelli. Lando Norris 1.8 seconds adrift and still within contention of the win. But 13 laps left and he needs to close that gap once again as they make their way past Arvid Lindblad. Max Verstappen is now 17.4 seconds adrift of Lando Norris in second spot. So almost 20 seconds off Kimi Antonelli. And Charles Leclerc has closed in to 1.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc closing in on a possible podium place. Has got that 15-lap advantage. Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen pitting very early, 38 laps ago for those hard compound tyres that he is using. Charles Leclerc has only been using his hard compound tyres for 23. Then we have Oscar Piastri kind of lurking in the background, been told on the radio to just let Verstappen and Leclerc have a little bit of a battle in front. Will Oscar Piastri be in the opportune place to pick up a podium instead? Norris on the radio. And Lando Norris being... hasn't been penalised for track limits. Lando Norris on the radio saying that Kimi Antonelli has been going off the track. Hasn't come up on the track limits infringements that we get throughout the race. So Lando Norris being his own steward inside of the car and asking for them to investigate that maybe. Here we are then. Charles Leclerc is within overtake range, and Charles Leclerc is going to get the overtake boost now that he is within a second of Verstappen. They've gone around the final couple of corners, that yellow marker, again with them within a second as you go around turn 17. You get that boost of power. Charles Leclerc certainly there. Through the first sector they come. Will Charles Leclerc bide his time a little bit here, or maybe go for a move down into turn 11 already? Let's keep an eye on where Verstappen puts himself on the track. Is he going to take defensive maneuvers from Charles Leclerc? Leclerc looking at the back of the Red Bull car, closing into the back of it. Something that he probably wish he could have done in the previous regulation cycle a little more often. And Kimi Antonelli has been given 2 strikes now for track limits. They've also just come up on the radar. So Lando Norris obviously making everybody aware that Kimi Antonelli should have picked up a couple of track limits infringements. And they've now popped up on the stream as well. Here comes Charles Leclerc then, down towards turn 17. Has only been within overtake range for this lap, so maybe just biding his time a touch. Doesn't have to go for the overtake straight away. The Macarena rear wings on both cars. Very different actuating point, though. The Ferrari sort of spins around, whereas the Red Bull sort of flops open from the back. And there we go. Charles Leclerc up the inside, down towards turn 1, picks his moment and gets the move done. Charles Leclerc up into 3rd place. And it maybe wasn't quite as tasty as Oscar Piastri was hoping for, as he's only closed the gap to 2 seconds. And here comes Max back again, though, and Max around the outside of turn 4. Well, as I was about to say that Charles Leclerc will probably hold on to that position fairly comfortably, Max Verstappen proves me wrong. Verstappen back up into 3rd place, going around turn 8, though, and down towards turn 11 they go. Surely Charles Leclerc is going to have the boost available to him, and a little bit of slipstream, and the tyre advantage. Here goes Charles Leclerc, moves to the right-hand side of the track. Is Verstappen going to try and hold the inside line? He certainly is, but Leclerc around the outside and able to get the move done on Max Verstappen for the 2nd time this lap. Verstappen down into 4th place. Is Max going to come back at him into like turn 14 or something mad? We'll have to wait and see. Doesn't look like it this time around. Charles Leclerc around turn 16. And Oscar Piastri is now within a second of Verstappen, so has helped out Piastri a little bit there, because Piastri will certainly want to get past Max Verstappen, especially with the tyre advantage that he's got. Piastri's got an extra 7 laps on his tyres compared to Charles Leclerc. He's only been on them 18 laps, those hard compound tyres. Let's see then if Verstappen is going to try and lunge at Charles Leclerc or something a little bit crazy. Doesn't feel like he's within touching distance. And Kimi Antonelli still on the radio, not very happy about the downshifts inside of that car. Black and white flag for Fernando Alonso for track limits as he gets his 3rd strike of the afternoon, down in 16th place. And Max Verstappen now under pressure from Oscar Piastri. I mean, Piastri will have seen Max Verstappen come back at Charles Leclerc and think, I'm going to try and do this at a moment where he can't get back at me, because Max Verstappen, as we know, does not give up a position easily, even if it is only 4th place. He will try and fight for it for his life. Aero open, and Max Verstappen stays ahead of Piastri into turn 11. Piastri has to follow Max Verstappen for the rest of the 2nd sector. It will be through turn 16 down towards turn 17 that you imagine he'll probably try and come back at him. He's right underneath Max Verstappen as they go through the chicane. The active aero deployed on both cars as they come out of the final corner towards the back straight. Piastri moves to the left-hand side of the track, gets to the inside line on Verstappen. Both of them trying to brake as late as possible. Verstappen tries to hold it around the outside, but Oscar Piastri does indeed get the move done, has the inside apex line. Can Verstappen come back at him towards turn 1? Again, they'll get that overtake boost, but isn't quite close enough to get Piastri this time. And Verstappen has dropped down to 5th place now. Leclerc into the podium places, and Oscar Piastri also gaining a position on the 4-time world champion. Antonelli leads, Norris in 2nd, Leclerc 3rd, Piastri 4th, Verstappen 5th, George Russell 6th, Lewis Hamilton in 7th spot. Colapinto in 8th, Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon 9th and 10th, looking like a double point finish for Williams. And looking like it's fairly comfortable for the point scoring finishers. Bem and then 5.9 seconds adrift of Albon and Sainz. So double points for Williams, pretty much locked in. A solid point scoring finish for Franco Colapinto. 4 points going in the favour of the Alpine driver in 8th place. Hamilton's all by himself. Russell's all by himself. Verstappen has fallen away from the 2 ahead of him now. Piastri versus Leclerc. Can Piastri find a little bit of pace possibly as Leclerc's tyres start to wane? Is the fight for the podium place that we've got. And Lando Norris has closed in on Antonelli a little bit, but then falls back a touch and closes in once again, but then falls back again. I don't think Lando Norris has quite got enough inside of that McLaren car to get to the top spot of this race. As we get to the final 8 laps, I'm going to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you could hit that like button, that would be absolutely amazing. It really does help out the channel. If you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. If you are new to the channel, trying to get to 200,000 subscribers. And I'll tell you what, if you're watching on like TikTok or Twitch, hit the follow button. Trying to get to 20,000 followers on TikTok. Trying to hit that 1,000 followers on Twitch as well. But do massively appreciate you guys sticking with me and choosing to have a little look. When will I read chat? I do try and read chat as much as I possibly can, but it's tricky when the race is literally happening in front of me. So apologies if I don't get every single person. Thank you all as well for over on TikTok, a few diamonds and a few gifters that have come through. Appreciate that massively. And lots of likes over on TikTok as well. Nearly 3,000 likes. Can we get 3,000 likes over on TikTok? That'd be insane. Thank you all. I try and read the chat. I really do. I'm so sorry. But there's been a lot going on track today. And there's been a little bit of chaos throughout the Grand Prix. I think this is the first breath we've been able to take where there hasn't been a battle slowly building. Antonelli, Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Verstappen seem like they're settled into the top 5 places now. George Russell and Hamilton will finish 6th and 7th. Colapinto in 8th. Carlos Sainz 9th. And Alex Albon will take that final points position in 10th. The Haas of Ollie Behrman, the closest to a point scoring finish in 11th. Bortoletto's 12th. Ocon 13th. Lindblad 14th. Sergio Perez still running in 15th place. Although Fernando Alonso actually having a look at trying to overtake. Oh no, that's Franco Colapinto ahead of Alonso. So Sergio Perez needs to get out of the way of Franco Colapinto's Alpine car. Sergio Perez still running though 15th. Alonso and Stroll 16th and 17th. Valtteri Bottas at the back of the pack is nearly a minute down on Lance Stroll is Valtteri Bottas. So a pretty tough afternoon for Bottas in the Cadillac car. He's picked up a couple of penalties as well as not been the day for Valtteri Bottas. Doing 50 laps on those tyres. At least, though, Max being able to do 44 laps, I don't mind so much because there is like a clear advantage. If Max Verstappen was still doing the same pace as Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri, that's when I've been asking some questions maybe about the Pirelli hard tyre. I think if you're going to go really long, it's fair that you can do a really long stint, but it should come at a cost, right? It should come at the fact that Verstappen should be a lot slower than the cars on tyres that are a lot better, or a lot younger, I should say. And Oscar Piastri being told on the radio, a chance of light drops of rain. Light drops of rain. We haven't really had the rain come, have we? I know that they moved the Grand Prix 3 hours forwards to try and miss the heavy rainstorms that were set to come. We did see a very wet race in Formula 2. It was kind of wet to dry. A little bit of a chaotic Formula 2 race. I mean, even without the weather, this race has been absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. And I'll get your guys' thoughts and feelings on it. After the race, I released a little survey that you can do where you can rate each of the drivers on their performances and also rate the race overall. But I think considering the Miami Grand Prix we've had in the past have been fairly sort of rubbish. Let's say rubbish. I think they've been fairly rubbish. I think actually going into this Grand Prix, it's been a good one. I was expecting it to be a lot less spectacular than it has been. And you know what? I said George Russell was probably going to finish in 6th place. Max Verstappen's lap times have really fallen away in the past few laps. It's now lapping at a 133.8. George Russell was a second quicker than Verstappen last time around. So are we going to see George Russell and Max Verstappen side by side towards the end of this Grand Prix? Who do we want to come out on top of that? Would you prefer Max Verstappen to hold on to 5th place, or are we expecting George Russell to get up into 16th? Let's see how many fans of each of those drivers we've got in the chat. Antonelli, 2.5 seconds ahead of Norris. Norris just didn't quite have enough in the end, did he? I know he's got the same sort of tyres on Antonelli. Antonelli pitted a lap earlier, got that undercut move on Lando Norris. It was so close between the two of them. Lando Norris coming out of the pits side by side with Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli coming off the better of the two, and they have disappeared into the distance. Like the massive positive from Lando Norris's side. Okay, yes, he might not go on to win this Grand Prix, but he did manage to win the sprint. It's been a lot closer to the Mercedes cars than they have been previously. Another upgrade coming to McLaren next weekend as well. Charles Leclerc has been left a little bit adrift. Like Leclerc decided to pit to cover off George Russell. Seems like a silly decision now because George Russell's so far away from where Charles Leclerc currently runs. And Leclerc would have easily had the pace to get past George Russell, having pitted later. I don't know. Would Charles Leclerc have been in this mix at the front? I don't think so. 22 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, 1.3 seconds adrift of Charles Leclerc. And George Russell, again, another second quicker. I'll tell you what, George Russell, within overtake range of Max Verstappen now. I thought we might come to a fairly closed end, and I was ready to finish the book for the Miami Grand Prix, but maybe I'll start another chapter. Here comes George Russell on Max Verstappen. Difference between 10 points and 8 points up for grabs. Couple of points swing, especially with Kimi Antonelli winning another race, putting him 24 points ahead of George Russell as it stands. Almost a race win's worth of points ahead, Kimi Antonelli in the championship. Of course, unless George Russell can get another 2 points on the board, cutting that deficit to 22. George Russell does indeed have a little look at Max Verstappen down towards turn 11. Will it be turn 17 that he goes for a lunge? I'm not sure that Max Verstappen has got the tyres left on that Red Bull car to really put up any kind of fight. 47 laps completed on those hard tyres now, Verstappen. 33 completed on George Russell's. So both of them have been very long stints on the hard compound tyre, it has to be said. But George Russell's much more like a stint that we were expecting to see on the hards. Here comes George Russell then. Down the back straight they go. Max Verstappen actually moves to the inside line. George Russell opting not to go for a manoeuvre at the moment, deciding to just get the better line out of turn 17. Verstappen having to cut across the nose of George Russell through turn 18 and 19. And here comes George Russell with the overtake boost. An extra couple of megajoules in his favour, and actually Max Verstappen holding up George Russell, holding that inside line, puts himself on the apex, and George Russell has to concede. George Russell does have 3 laps though. Oh! And was there contact? Didn't know if they touched, but George Russell's now got a little bit of front wing damage by the looks of things. And Verstappen on the radio saying that he thinks he might have hit the tyre. It didn't look like they had come together in any way. But George Russell's front wing has indeed got a little bit of damage to it. It's not going to help George Russell at all. And I'll tell you what, Oscar Piastri has also got to within a second of Charles Leclerc for that final podium place. It's all coming to life once again with 2 laps left to go here in Miami. Oscar Piastri having a look at Charles Leclerc. Will he have a move at the Ferrari into turn 17? No. What about George Russell? Does he have a go at Max Verstappen? Does indeed. Moves to the left-hand side of the track. George Russell going to have the position going down into turn 17. Gets ahead of Max Verstappen comfortably and is going to hit that apex. Oh, as Max Verstappen then comes back at him. It's a lunge up the inside from Max Verstappen out of nowhere to Verstappen then keeping that position. I thought the move had been done. And Verstappen then comes out of absolute nowhere from the perspective that we're watching. And Verstappen retakes 5th place. Oscar Piastri continues to fight with Charles Leclerc. Leclerc then still ahead as they come around turn 8 together. Lando Norris on the radio. Problem with the rear wing. So Lando Norris a mechanical fault, unfortunately. Maybe one of the reasons that Norris hasn't been able to really fight with Antonelli, but I'll tell you what, Piastri is having a look at a podium finish. Piastri has a little lunge, and Leclerc has to cover him off through turn 11. They're going to go through the final sector again, right next to one another. Rafael Nadal getting prepared to wave the checkered flag, but he's still got another lap to go. Antonelli just 19 corners away from his third victory in Formula One, but Oscar Piastri trying to get on the podium. Piastri moves to the left-hand side of the track. Piastri round the inside then, and gets that move done on Charles Leclerc. Will Leclerc come back at him? No. Piastri looks like he's going to have that position going on to the final lap of the race. They come around turn 19. Charles Leclerc then, is he going to be able to get back at him? Oh, and no, Charles Leclerc, big oversteer through turn 17. He's not going to be anywhere close. So Piastri has inherited that final podium place from Charles Leclerc. And Leclerc, oh, and it's a big spin from Charles Leclerc, and he might have taken himself out of the race. No, he pirouettes and gets himself back on it. Charles Leclerc with a heart-racing moment there. Holds on to fourth spot despite a spin as he was going through turn 3. George Russell then makes a move on Max Verstappen, has got in front of Max Verstappen for now. Verstappen down into 6th place, and Russell's finally made it stick, but we were watching Charles Leclerc there go for a spin. Oh my goodness. Kept it out of the wall though, Charles Leclerc. An impressive job considering the circumstances. George Russell still fighting with Max Verstappen. George Russell did get in front of him going in towards turn 1. Is Verstappen going to have a lunge into turn 11? He has a look at it, but he's unable to close the gap. Here comes Kimi Antonelli around the final corner though, and Kimi Antonelli is going to take 3 victories in a row in Formula One. Off the back of his first 3 pole positions. That is a record that will stand for a little while, I think, there. Kimi Antonelli absolutely flying. Lando Norris comes across the line 2nd place. Oscar Piastri is indeed going to take P3. And Charles Leclerc is just about... Is Russell going to try and fight for that 4th place? He is indeed. Something's gone wrong with Charles Leclerc's car, and George Russell having a look at it. Charles Leclerc's going to lose the position. Russell, even with a broken front wing, is going to take 4th spot. Charles Leclerc then also overtaken by Verstappen, and Charles Leclerc falls to 6th. Russell up into 4th, Verstappen 5th, and Charles Leclerc went from a podium place to 6th place within the space of a lap. Charles Leclerc, absolutely horrendous final last lap from the Ferrari man, drops to 6th. Hamilton will finish in 7th. Franco Colapinto finishes in 8th place. 4 really good points for Alpine there. Carlos Sainz 9th, Alex Albon 10th. Behrman, Bortoletto, Ocon, Lindblad, Alonso, Perez, Stroll and Bottas finish the Grand Prix. Hulkenberg, Lawson, Gasly and Hadjar, the fatalities as we took through the Grand Prix itself. Don't know why I use the word fatalities. They're not dead. Don't worry, they're alive. They're just out of the race. Showing the championship though very quickly. If we look at the impact that has now had, Charles Leclerc just got all out of shape. Oh my goodness. And he did collide with the wall. So there was some damage to that Ferrari car, is why he had such an atrocious final lap. And Charles Leclerc goes from a possible podium. Yeah, he's damaged the car there. He's actually done fairly well to get it all the way back to the end of the Grand Prix, despite the fact that he falls all the way down to 6th position. Antonelli wins the Grand Prix. Another 25 points for him. He moves up to 100 overall. 4 weekends, 100 points. Kimi Antonelli's absolutely flying at this moment in time. George Russell, 12 points for him, puts him in 8 on 80. Lando Norris does gain a position on Lewis Hamilton. He goes up into 4th place. Max Verstappen moves back up into the place where we kind of expect him to be, in and amongst the top teams. 10 points for him, 26 in total. And Lando Norris not very happy on the radio, actually saying that we should have won this race. So Lando Norris, if we can get back to winning, we can make a decent season for ourselves, but Norris not very happy with that second place. Behrman stays where he is. Gasly the same. Lawson 2. Colapinto up to 5 points for the season. Actually jumps him up 5 places in the standings, up into 11th spot. And Alex Albon, the other mover up, gets his first point of the season. Means he moves ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. So it's just Hülkenberg, Bottas, Perez, Alonso and Stroll who have yet to score points this season. Mercedes still leading the Constructors' Championship by a distance to Ferrari on 112. McLaren on 94 now. Did gain points on Ferrari, but actually ended up not gaining points on Mercedes after that final lap calamity from Charles Leclerc handing a few more points to George Russell. Then Red Bull, that 10 points takes them to 30 and away from the kind of midfield pack a touch. They're 9 points clear of Alpine. Alpine actually overtake Haas into 5th place. 21 points for them for the season so far. Haas moved down to 6th. Racing Bulls in 7th. Williams actually with 3 points jump up to 8th place. They're now ahead of Audi on points. They were both on 2. Now Williams on 5 in total. And Cadillac and Aston Martin, the teams so far this season that have yet to score points. Goodness gracious me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate you sticking around and watching the race with me. It was a phenomenal Miami Grand Prix. I will be making some videos this week reacting to all of the chaos that has happened. We'll be back live again for the Canadian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time, so make sure you set your reminders for that. And of course, we will have the Crash Happy podcast out on Wednesday, talking about all of the chaos from the Miami Grand Prix weekend. But I'm going to leave you with Kimi Antonelli celebrating his 3rd win in Formula One, 3 in a row, 3 pole positions in a row. The Italian is on fire.